You know the scene, right? The clock is ticking down. 10, 9, 8. Everybody's holding their breath, just waiting for that fresh start. But what about that person in your life? Or maybe it's you, who just goes to bed? Or maybe just treats it like any other night? Well, it's not about being a pessimist. Today we're going to dive deep into the psychology behind why some people just skip the celebration.
So let's really get into it. Why is it that for some of us, the biggest party of the year feels, well, totally neutral? Psychology tells us it's got nothing to do with laziness or being negative. Nope, it's actually a fundamentally different way the mind is wired to see time and progress itself.
See, at the very heart of this are two totally different mindsets. On one side, you've got the fresh start crew. They see time like a book with chapters, and New Year's, that's the perfect time to turn the page, set some big goals, and make those resolutions. But then you have the continuous path thinkers. For them, it's all about daily habits and long-term consistency over any single big moment.
So what's really going on in the minds of that fresh start crew? Well, psychology actually gives us some really cool tools to decode this. Let's pull back the curtain a bit.
The first key idea here is something called a mental landmark. Just think of it like a psychological line in the sand. Psychologists point to dates like New Year's Day or your birthday as these really powerful symbols that we use to mentally separate our past self from our future self. It kind of creates this perfect opportunity for change. And that leads right into what they call the fresh start effect. This is this incredibly powerful belief that a new time period, a new week, a new month, a new year, literally creates a new you. It's this mental trick that makes it feel so much easier to leave last year's mistakes behind and tackle brand new goals with a ton of motivation. And for a lot of people, it's an absolutely effective tool.
But what about the people who just don't feel that effect? It's not a flaw. In fact, we're about to break down 5 key psychological traits that define this completely different mental framework. This has nothing to do with being against fun. It's about having a totally unique internal operating system.
So here's our roadmap. We're going to explore 5 key traits that really paint the full picture of this mindset. We're talking about being independent of dates, internally motivated, super realistic, emotionally regulated, and totally focused on the long term.
All right, first up, trait number 1, they are completely independent of symbolic dates.
And this is so crucial. They just don't wait. If something in their life needs to change, they start right now, whether it's a Tuesday in April or a Saturday in October. They don't need that mental landmark because, in their mind, time is just this single, continuous, flowing line.
Okay, the second trait is all about where their motivation comes from. It's internal. You see, their drive isn't fueled by the energy of a crowd or some big social ritual. It really comes from their own personal standards and their deep commitment to consistency. All that external hype, the countdowns, the parties, it just doesn't register as a trigger for them to take action.
Trait number 3, they are realists through and through.
These folks have a super pragmatic view of how change actually works. They know, deep down, that habits don't just magically transform overnight. So they put their trust in consistent, daily systems, not in some grand one-day promise that might fizzle out.
Number 4 is a big one because it tackles a really common misconception. We're talking about emotional regulation. So, from the outside, a lack of celebratory excitement might look like someone is being cold or detached. But psychology suggests it's actually a sign of incredible strength. They just don't feel this pressure to perform an emotion just because society expects them to at a certain time. And the 5th and final trait really ties it all together. They're playing the long game. Their focus isn't on moments, it's on momentum. They're measuring their progress over months, even years, and they care way more about their overall direction. For them, every single day contributes to that journey, so January 1st just doesn't feel any more special than December 31st did.
Now, it's really important to get this. We're not just talking about New Year's Eve here. This mindset is a fundamental worldview. It's a way of seeing life as one continuous process of growth.
And you'll see this exact same pattern pop up around other big dates, like birthdays or anniversaries. It's not that they dislike these events, but it comes from a core belief in continuous growth. This idea that life isn't meant to be divided up into neat little chapters that start and end on cue. So let's just put it all together. What do we have? The common perception might be that these people are lazy or apathetic, but the psychological reality, they're internally driven. People might think they're negative, but they're actually just incredibly realistic about change. And what looks like being cold and uncaring is, in fact, a real sign of emotional stability.
All of this really pushes us to reframe how we even think about progress itself. It kind of invites us to take a look in the mirror and consider our own mindset.
So here is the most crucial takeaway. Skipping the celebration, it is not a flaw. It's a feature. It's actually a sign of a stable, self-directed, and long-term oriented mind. A mind that operates on its own timeline and really thinks independently from social norms. And that leaves us with one final question for you to really think about. When you look at your own life, your own ambitions, your own goals, is your progress measured in big, bold chapters, or is it measured in the small, consistent footsteps you take every single day?